Now, an extraordinary exclusive interview from the I-Team, a personal and painful story of a New York City man who says he kept his shame of childhood sexual abuse secret for years. And he claims it happened inside the state capitol complex. Tonight, he's suing the state and warning that others are facing a deadline for justice. He's speaking publicly for the first time and only to investigative reporter Sarah Wallace.
I was abused in the legislative building, in the justice building, in the egg here, and in the bathrooms that run all underneath this majestic set of fountains.
It's heart-wrenching to think that decades later, 47-year-old Chi Wright's memory is as present as it was then. He remembers every bathroom.
This would be lined up with men, some sitting in the stalls there, some standing here at the urinals.
Every stairwell.
My abusers would meet me in the bathrooms, and then they would take me into these emergency stairwells.
Every building in the state capitol complex in Albany, where he says as a boy in the late 1980s, he was repeatedly sexually abused by adult men.
I came in through here from the bus.
Wright recently confronted his past with us, returning to what he claims was the scene of multiple sex crimes.
They would just gather back in this back area and have sex here, and when they heard the door open, they would scatter.
Wright says his mother worked in an office for the State Performing Arts Center. He would come to visit every day after school.
And so my mom worked here, and I would come in this office and do homework here, right next to this men's room, which was where I was first raped.
Wright acknowledges he sought out encounters, but claims in these court papers he was triggered by a traumatic assault months before when he attended a YMCA camp near Lake George and a counselor abused him.
I was a very effeminate boy. I didn't understand my sexual orientation yet. It really confused me. And then the shame and the secrecy of it as well. Some children, when they're sexually abused, retreat. But what's often not talked about is that some children become hypersexual.
And so he says he became the perfect prey of predators here. His mother had no idea. He believes many of his abusers were state employees.
The way that I coped with the trauma was to seek out more sexual experiences.
Here at the Capitol?
Yes, and by the time I was about 15 and a half, I guesstimated that I had had over 150 encounters with white men on the grounds of the New York State Capitol as a 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-old. And no one noticed. For me, this was a place that stole my innocence and raped my innocence and left me destitute emotionally.
Wright has filed dual lawsuits against the YMCA and the state of New York under the Child Victims Act. It created a 2-year window ending on August 14th of this year, allowing any sex abuse victim of Wright's attorney.
They're responsible because they gave these predators the venue and the location to do these acts.
The entities named declined comment. Wright says he is still processing the pain, but he hopes his story will spark a Men Too movement.
Men don't normally talk about being victims.
No, I think there's an epidemic of silence. We're abused as well, but it's even harder to come forward.
It's taken a lot for you to get to this place and talk about this. Why is this so important for you to take this step, and it's so courageous?
Because this has haunted me for most of my adult life. I want others to understand that the shame and the fear that they feel does not belong to them. It belongs to the people who abuse them. And it is a hard process to come forward. But for me, it was essential because the secrets and the shame was killing me.
The Office of Court Administration says since the window opened in 2019, nearly 6,800 claims have been filed, close to 200 in one recent week. But that deadline is fast approaching. From Albany, Sarah Wallace, News 4 New York.